3. We're not even sure that if Hatch loses this match, does he end up making it in the top 8, because he's the only X and 3 really that's left that can't draw, but it looks like some 4-loss people are going to make it. So how far down are his breakers going to go? He's sitting in 7th place. Could he end up still being in 7th and 8th as he rubs his hands together, sees a Quirion Ranger, and says, all right, let's do it?
And if you notice, Matt has a Gitaxian Probe. He has 2 Gitaxian Probes in his deck. He has it in his hand. He chose not to use it on turn 1, probably knowing what Greg is playing. And I kind of like this because there's really no reason. Like, he knows he's going to keep his hand. He kind of knows what he wants to lead with. Why not just get another card out of Greg's draw step so you can get even more information? So let's see what Matt decides to do. We have a turn 1 Aether Vial from Greg. That's a good start. That's definitely a card that he values very highly in this matchup, or in general, but Matt has turn 1 Quirion Ranger and now turn 2 Wirewood Symbiote. So things looking pretty good for Matt so far. Let's see what Greg can muster on his turn.
See if Matt's going to extend it anymore too. I believe he's got a Cradle in his hand. He's got another Wirewood as well.
Yeah, and I think he's also got the Natural Order, so that him holding the Gitaxian Probe makes even more sense. He's going to wait the turn. He's probably going to wait to use it the turn he wants to cast Natural Order to see if the coast is clear, so to speak.
Okay. The Vial's going to tick up to 1. Hatch is going to draw his card. He's got a Mutavault over there. I think he's got a Force Will in his hand. Of course, he's got some fishies hanging out as well. He needs to tread carefully the entire time that he plays against this deck. It is very, very difficult deck to play against because they can kill you out of nowhere, as we saw Nass do earlier in the day yesterday.
Yeah, and it looks like Greg does have a Force of Will, like you mentioned. So even when Matt Gitaxian probes, he'll know that the jig is up. He can't actually use the Natural Order just yet, or it'll run into a Force of Will. So Greg casts Silvergill Adept, reveals a Merfolk, and now draws a card off of it.
Yeah, Master of the Pearl Trident is the reveal off of the Silvergill Adept. Hatch draws his card, has his Vial on 1, just going to pass the turn back. So Nass is going to sacrifice the Verdant Catacombs, go down to 19. There is the Dried Arbor. So he's working his way towards what looks to be a pretty nice Gaia's Cradle.
Yeah, and like you said, he has Gaia's Cradle in his hand, so he's going to be able to generate a lot of mana next turn. Matt really wants to draw a Glimpse here, because if he casts Glimpse first, if he casts Gitaxian Probe, and then he casts Glimpse, Greg will likely use the Force of Will on the Glimpse, and then that kind of clears the path for the Natural Order.
And set him up a little bit. And also, I mean, it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation for Hatch. If you don't counter the Glimpse, he's going to go crazy.
Yeah,
so you got to counter the Glimpse.
Exactly, because he has a Symbiote in play, and you know he has at least one other elf in his hand. So let's see what Matt draws for his turn. Ooh, Green Sun Zenith, so not a bad draw. That allow him to get a Elvish Visionary.
Probe time. So let's see exactly what the Merfolk player is working with here. Or okay, I thought he was going to counter. Yeah, he played it like he was going to counter it. Yeah.
So pretty good hand for Greg there. Not only does he have a Force of Will, he has another copy of Force of Will. So Matt is not really going to be able to bait anything out here. Greg can pick and choose what he wants to counter here. Matt's going to have to play this turn a little more cautiously, I think, now.
There's a Nettle Sentinel off the top there for the Elves player. Hatch's hand is actually pretty good in this matchup. Even though he has the 2-for-1 himself, he has to figure out what are the important combo pieces to actually counter here. Image is going to be pretty good in this matchup. Can draw more cards off the Silvergill Adept, can make the creatures bigger with the Master. So not bad as there's a Nettle Sentinel.
Nettle Sentinel trying to see if Greg is going to decide this is the card I have to actually counter or not. Greg, probably not going to counter anything other than a Natural Order or Green Sun Zenith.
Yeah, I can't imagine he counters many other cards than that.
Elvish Visionary, though, is another card that he doesn't want to have to contend with. So that's the kind of problem when you're playing against Elves. There's just so many cards that you have to counter. Normally, like a deck like Jund or something, they could actually start killing Wirewood Symbiotes, but Greg Greg's deck just doesn't have any ways to deal with Wirewood Symbiote once it's in play.
You see the text on Quirion Ranger. It says, return a force you control under his hand, untap target creature, not your creature. So that's important with those images that are out there, because Quirion Ranger can actually just kill those.
Yeah, so True Name Nemesis and Phantasmal Image work really well together.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, there is no True Name Nemesis in Greg's hand right now, so they're basically just going to be able to cantrip if he wants to use a Silvergill Adept, because obviously they can die to that Quirion Ranger.
You see Wirewood Symbiote on the screen, the card that kind of holds this Elves deck together, oftentimes a Green Sun Zenith target, sometimes even a Natural Order target. It is an insect, not an elf, but the same clause applies here, and that says untap target creature, not target creature you control. Oftentimes is the type of card does, so those Phantasmal Images are actually quite poor right now in Hatch's hand. You see the Cradle's going to come down here and tap for 5. There's a Zenith for some large number.
Yeah, so he's tapping for 5 mana. It's likely going to be trying to get a Elvish Visionary, but I doubt it's going to resolve.
Yeah, I think this is one of the spells that you fight over. You mentioned Green Sun Zenith and Natural Order, the tutor spells.
Yep.
Those are the ones that you want to fight over with the Force Wheel. Yeah, you have to 2-for-1 yourself to do so, but it's worth it because you can probably beat an army like that, Nettle Sentinel, Wirewoods, and a Queer Ranger, but you can't beat, the Elvish Visionary combo that goes along with this. Obviously, Crater of Behemoth is going to be game over immediately.
Yeah, so Greg is forced to 2-for-1 himself to counter that Green Sun Zenith. He has another Force of Will in his hand to stop the natural order that Matt has in his hand, probably if he tries to go for it next turn. But Matt has perfect information now because of the Cataxian Probe, and there's so many live draws for Matt here. Even an Elvish Visionary, something as simple as an Elvish Visionary would be huge for him here. So
and it's almost one that you almost have to counter.
Exactly.
Now, the tough thing here for Hatch, you saw he uses Force of Will, removes the Master of the Pearl Trident to the Force of Will. Little game here between the two players of, does Hatch know how the Queer Ranger and the Symbiote work, that it can target any creature? Does Nass know that? I would bet that Nass knows that due to his experience with elves. But does Hatch know that his Phantasmal Images aren't very live in this situation?
And it looks like we're going to go for the natural order. He's
Yeah.
going to make him use both of. Yeah, it looks like he's going to make him use the both of Force of Wills this turn.
And this natural order, you don't know if it's going to get Crater Hoof or if it's just going to go get like an Elvish Visionary and start the card drawing engine there. I actually like this play a lot by Nass. It generates all this mana, and he's going to cast natural order here. And I think this is a situation where Hatch doesn't want to counter this spell, but I think he has to.
Yeah, you don't know for sure if Matt has a card like Progenitus's deck, but you do have a Phantasmal Image. But again, I think you have to. He's got Crater of Behemoth.
Yeah.
And Crater of Behemoth would actually be +4/+4. So then you're talking about a 9/9 Behemoth along with 2 5/5 Symbiotes. I don't know if both of them can attack. I think only one of them can attack. Either way, though, you'd be taking what, like 14 damage?
Yeah, a bunch of damage.
And then you still have a 5/5 in play that you have to contend with.
Yeah. So I wonder what Nass is going to do here. This is definitely interesting. This natural order that's in place on the stack. And you see Hatch is probably, I think he's asking the judge right now about the Oracle text of a card. And now he's really deciding, okay, am I going to Force Will removing a Phantasmal Image to this? And if I do that, what are the ramifications of that decision?
The key here is, does he have both Phantasmal Image still in his hand?
Yeah, he's got 2 in his hand.
Okay, so if he lets it resolve and Matt goes for a Crater of Behemoth, I don't think he can kill Greg this turn. And then could he... I guess it wouldn't. Yeah, he couldn't kill him.
Can he image on the counter?
He couldn't image. It wouldn't be enough anyway.
Okay, so Behemoth. Well, Behemoth is a 5/5, so there would be 2 creatures in play.
Yeah, we'll bring up Crater of Behemoth for you. It's a lot of mana. It's 8 mana, but thankfully elves can generate a lot of mana. It can also search it into play with natural order, which is what's on the stack right now. And it looks like Greg did let it resolve. So Crater of Behemoth is a potential target here, but maybe just Elvish Visionary.
I feel like he's going to go for Visionary. Yeah, that's what I thought he was going to do.
Yeah, so he's going to go for Elvish Visionary. Obviously, you can't kill him with Behemoth, and this is good enough in this situation because you just want to kind of generate this card advantage.
Yeah, and he's got a Cradle, so he's got a ton of mana. He's got 2 Symbiotes, so he can basically draw 3 cards a turn. He can draw into other Cradles to just completely explode here. And I'm kind of with you in this situation where the cards that are super important are the tutor effects, and you don't want to 2-for-1 yourself, but at the same time, now Nass gets to go crazy next turn.
Yeah, well, Greg can still counter the Elvish Visionary on the drop deck, but
that's true.
Matt gets a card here, and he drew another Elvish Visionary, so pretty huge here.
It's Matt Nass's invitational card. Queer Ranger going to come back.
Queer Ranger comes down. He probably not going to force a will that, no need. So Greg in a tough spot in here. Not only does he have to contend with an Elvish Visionary that got natural ordered, but Matt did draw another Elvish Visionary off of the Elvish Visionary.
Maybe Hatch, what he's looking for is a Wasteland to take care of that Cradle.
Yeah, Wasteland would be a good draw, but still, Wasteland will slow Matt down a little bit, but he still has to deal with the 2 Elvish Visionaries that are just going to generate a lot of an advantage for Matt. He knows that Matt has a Savannah in his hand, so it's not like he's not going to be able to cast it.
Yeah. This is such a tough situation for Merfolk because they just don't really have any good attackers.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's got a 2/1 Silver deck, but what attack can he make there that Nass even cares about? I mean, sure, go to 15 or block and pick up my guy or just block and trade with your guy.
Yeah, it's just when your opponent doesn't have islands, Merfolk really doesn't seem that impressive, especially when they have just creatures that can do a lot of tricky things like Wirewoods Symbiote and Carrion Ranger. So Greg probably just going to play another Silver Girl Adept, draw a card here, try to dig for something. A Wasteland could help.
I think he may have drawn a True Name Nemesis. Here's a Cavern of Souls. And
Not sure if Greg has Jeté main deck. I don't think so. I think he has 0 ways to actually interact with creatures.
He's got one in his sideboard, but he does have 0 waste interact with creatures in his main deck. But Trine Nemesis is going to show up, and that's the way that he can actually start clocking his opponent a little bit. It is kind of a slow clock because it's only 3 damage a turn, so we're looking at a 6-turner right now, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah, it's better than nothing, but with 2 symbiotes in play and 2 visionaries in Matt's hand, it's going to be very difficult for Greg to muster any kind of offense in time before Matt's going to be able to just draw and totally take over this game.
So Silver Adept looks like it wants to get into the red zone, and that's exactly what it's going to do. And what that does, what's super important there is if Nass takes this 2 points of damage, is now it's going to be a 5-turn clock with Trine Nemesis, which, 5 turns is a long time. I don't know if we're going to play that many turns in this game, but it's something.
Yeah, it's something. And, Windswept Teeth was drawn, so he has the potential to find another Dryad Arbor later on if he wants to. But we're going to lead with Elvish Visionary. Let's see if that's going to be a Force of Will or not.
It's gross that he has other Visionary in his hand because I think he's just saying, okay, I really, really, really want you to counter this.
Yeah.
Like more than anything in the world, so I can just go off with my other Visionary.
So Greg thinking, can he afford to just let it resolve and then try to counter a big spell like Natural Order or Green Sun Zenith? Clearly, you can't let the second Natural Order resolve if you see one. So tough spot for Greg. Doesn't know what to do. Matt doesn't have that many cards in his hand, so Greg's probably just trying to go through all the iterations of what he could expect. He already saw Green Sun Zenith. He already saw Natural Order. What are the chances that Matt has another Natural Order in his hand right here?
And the thing here is that Nass is working with perfect information as far as Hatch's hand is concerned. He knows that his hand is double Phantasmal Image and a Force of Will. So he knows he needs to play around exactly 1 hard counter.
Yeah, and it shows you exactly how powerful a card like a Taxing Probe is in Legacy in particular, because there are so many complicated decisions, more so than in any other format, because, obviously Standard, there's a lot of decisions you have to make, but in Legacy, the games can be won or lost in the first 2 turns. So you really need to know exactly, having perfect information is just so valuable. And you could see how Matt is basically just cultivating the perfect situation because he knows exactly what Greg has to work with.
5 mana add to the pool via the Cradle. -2 leaves at 3 left. Now 2 because of Heritage Druid and Elvish Visionary resolving, but now we can add even more mana. And now is this the spell that you want a Force of Will? Or is this a spell that Matt Nash is trying to trick me into Force of Willing?
Well, if it resolves, then Matt's going to have a lot more mana now. He's going to be able to tap those 3 for mana, start returning Elvish Visionary, start casting them again. This is just a very, very difficult spot for Greg. I'm not sure he's going to be able to Force of Will anything, really, this turn. It's already too late. There's just too much in play.
Nash is going to turn that Wirewood Symbiote upside down. Means that I've used this one. Visionary is going to come back to the grip after adding 3 green via Heritage Druid and double Visionary. Glimpse is the draw. Going to use this one.
So we're going to
adding of mana.
Yeah, pretty good sequencing for Matt. He's generating as much mana as he can before returning anything to his hand.
Visionary comes back, and he's going to untap, I think, the other Visionary.
Yeah, so second Symbiote has been used now, so Visionary comes down. I think he still has some mana left in his mana pool.
He's got, I think Hatch is keeping track there with the die. He's got 4 in his pool.
Yeah, so Glimpse and Green Sun Zenith were drawn, and now we're going to have a Green Sun Zenith here for some amount. I think it might be 1.
Be surprised if that resolves. We've already seen him counter 1 Green Sun Zenith in this game.
Yeah, but if it's only for 1, I don't think Greg can really afford to force it. He went down a certain path by not forcing the Elvish Visionary.
Okay.
He basically committed to only forcing something like a Natural Order or a Green Sun Zenith that will get a Behemoth.
Okay.
And Greg is basically resigned to losing to this slow, grindy draw that Matt has assembled here.
Yep. And so now the card drawing engine of the mono green deck. That's right. The card drawing engine of the mono green deck is starting to go to work.
I think this line is reasonable if you're playing against an elf player you think maybe might make a mistake, but when you're playing against Matt Nass playing elves, it's very unlikely he's going to make a mistake.
Yeah, not going to happen.
So Matt is shuffling. Now he drew off the Visionary, and there's the Natural Order, so he could try to go for it, but there's really no reason to. This turn he's under no pressure, so he just passes the turn back. He still has that Glimpse too, so Glimpse is another card that Greg has to sort of question: do I counter it or not?
It's funny because in this particular game, as Hatch can just go attack you for 3 with Trine Nemesis and put you down to 12, the image can come in and copy the Trine Nemesis, as you mentioned, and he can try to win the game that way, which is he can actually hardcast True Nemesis or hardcast Image right now, copy True Name Nemesis, and then the next turn vial one in,
Oh yeah, he can.
and then find a Lord and kill him for Xaxes.
Yeah, he could theoretically win next turn. I just don't think he's going to get another.
I don't think he's going to get another turn either.
Yeah, if like you said, he's playing a True Name Nemesis now, and it's going to copy it. He's playing a Phantasma Image, which is copying True Name Nemesis. Matt knows that there's another image in his hand because of Gataxian Probe.
Yep.
Again, perfect information. So he knows that Greg has the option of vialing in that second image, making another True Name Nemesis, and if a Lord is drawn, then he will lose the game.
Yep.
So knowing that, I doubt Matt's going to allow Greg to get another turn.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
And he certainly has multiple ways he can win here. He just drew Nettle Sentinel, which works great with Heritage Druid. He still has that Glimpse, so I expect him to lead here with Glimpse probably.
Well, that's what you're going to see.
And that's going to put all the pressure on Greg again. Does he force this Glimpse?
And I don't think that he can, but he's going to. So he's going to force Glimpse, and now Nass is going to immediately show him Natural Order, which he's going to use for the Cradle, go get the Crater Hoof and kill him.
He knows, with only one card in your hand, and he knows what it is.
Yep.
I'm sorry, he pitched a Phantasma Image, but the only counter spells that Merfolk really play are Daze and Force of Will, so nothing can counter a Natural Order.
And so now he's going to add mana for the Cradle. Oh, okay. So I thought he was just going to go, just Natural Order right away, but it looks like he's going to go through a few more steps.
Yeah, he's going to go through the motions. Looks like Greg's making him go through it.
Yeah. Which he should.
Wisely, yeah.
Yeah, it's the last round of the tournament. He's going to add a bunch of mana to his mana pool via the Cradle. It's going to be 7. There's a Sentinel, so 6.
And I think Matt kind of showed the order, just hoping he would concede, but now, yeah.
Yeah, and Greg's like, all right, I got a file. You got it. All right, so Matt Nass is going to win game number 1 over Greg Hatch. Elves up a game over Merfolk, which, again, we feel is a pretty good matchup for Elves.
Yeah.
But we take a look at Hatch's sideboard here and see if he can turn some things around. He does have some things that are relevant here. He's got 3 copies of Submerge. He's got Numazawa's Jite. He also has some copies of Swan Song, a card we'll get to in a moment. 1 Spell Pierce, 1 Pithing Needle, 1 Grafdigger's Cage, 1 Vision Charm, 2 Relic Progenitist, and a Lawan Cephalid Empress. Swan Song is an interesting one here because it seems like the best cards in Nass's deck outside of El's Visionary are spells. Now, do you want to board in this card that gives them a 2/2? That's kind of annoying. I don't think the game is really going to come down to damage, but Nass doesn't have islands in his deck, so you can't ignore the 2/2 flyer like you'd be able to against other blue decks. So Swan Song, I think, is super interesting in this matchup if he wants to bring it in. And I think Grafdigger's Cage, Submerge, and Jite are easy, but Swan Song, I think, is a tough one.
I like Spell Pierce
Okay.
because Spell Pierce is actually pretty good against countering. Even if you just get a glimpse, taking some of their mana is kind of useful. They can't cast multiple spells at least. But Daze isn't very good in this matchup, so I think he has to decide to kind of board out some of those Dazes. Submerge is definitely coming in along with the Jite, so that's probably a 4-for-4 swap. Beyond that, though, I'm not sure. Maybe you take out the Kosi's Trickster. I'm not sure.
How dare you? How dare you board out the Kosi's Trickster? Now, Greg does have 1 Vision Charm in his sideboard, and this card's a little bit crazy. There's an interaction with this one. Target artifact faces out. I put the top 4 cards from target player's library into his or graveyard, or all lands of 1 type or base land of your choice until end of turn. So all lands of 1 type, it could be a falter effect by naming islands, but I think that might be going a little bit too deep.
Yeah, not sure that's coming in for this matchup, but I think Submerge and Jite are clearly the auto-includes. I also like Spell Pierce in this match. Swan Song, like you said, Natural Order, Green Sun Zenith are important cards, but the real keys, like we saw in the first game, what really won Matt the game was Wirewood Symbiote and an Elvish Visionary.
Yeah.
I mean, you need ways to interact with those 2 cards, which Greg really just doesn't have. So Jite's his best bet is probably an early Jite, like getting that going, which is why I think Matt's going to bring in cards like Quasali Pride Mage and Abrupt Decay.
What else does he have in his sideboard?
Yeah, he has 4 copies of Cabal Therapy, 2 Thoughtseize, obviously 3 Abrupt Decay, 1 Progenitus, 1 World Spine Worm, 1 Scavenging Ooze, 1 Gaddock Teague, 1 Quasali Pride Mage, and 1 Natural Order. Don't see him bringing in a 4th Natural Order. Not sure you need it in this matchup. I think Matt's comfortable by just, generating a massive creatures and generating an advantage that way. I do like Abrupt Decay because it sort of protects yourself against cards like Jite, which I think it's reasonable for Matt to assume that Merfolk would have, given they have True Name Nemesis. Those 2 kind of go together pretty well, so I think Matt's going to assume that Jite is going to be a card he has to concern himself with, which is also why I like having Quasali Pride Mage, and at the very least, you can always go after Aether Vial, which is a pretty good target to hit. Don't like bringing in any of the Natural Order targets, don't know if you need Progenitus necessarily in this matchup. Thoughtseize Cabal Therapy, I don't hate those cards. I kind of, if you, Greg can't really afford to board out Force of Wills, and being able to just nab them and try to go through your combo and make sure that your Visionaries and Wirewood Symbiont is resolved unfettered, I think that's useful. But the thing is, Matt's deck is so good against Merfolk game one that I don't think he wants to dilute his deck too much. So we'll see what he decides to do, but I definitely think that I could see some numbers of Abrupt Decay, Quasali Pride Mage, and maybe Thoughtseize Cabal Therapy, some mix coming in, but probably not all 6 discard spells.
All right, well, we're going to take a look here as Hatch is going through his sideboard a little bit more. Nass is ready to go. If you guys are just joining us, Cedric Phillips, Osip Lebedovich, Star City Games Open Series here, featuring the Invitational in Los Angeles, the last one of 2013. You can join us on Twitter at SCG Live, hashtag SCGINVI for your tweets. We've got 6 players in the top 8 already. Again, that is going to be Max Brown, Taya Steele, Brian Braunduin, Andrew Shrout, Alex Bertoncini, and Shaheen Sarani. The rest we got to figure out. Matt Nass and Greg Hatch currently playing for it, and we've got some other pair downs as well. So we're going to see what happens here. But this is the big one. This is the one that we've got in front of us here. Matt Nass up a game. He was 10-0 in this tournament, and the wheels started to fall off a little bit here. But he can get back on board if he wins this match.
Yeah, and I think you can kind of see based on both players how they sideboarded, how comfortable they are in this matchup. So Matt, he was ready to. He knew what to sideboard in out relatively quickly. He already presented. He's just sitting back waiting for Greg. Greg on the other side, he was a little uncertain. Went back to the sideboard several times, still trying to figure out what to do, and he's still shuffling. So you can see, I think Matt feels pretty confident. Greg, much less so.
Yeah, it's not. Again, this is not Matt Nass's first rodeo with the old elf deck.
He not only does he know how to play elves really well, I think he probably thinks this is a really good matchup for him.
Yeah, and I would have to agree with him here. Again, True Name can put on a clock, but it's kind of a slow one there. Hatch was a couple turns too short of being able to kill Nass. And again, the difficulty here is that there are just a lot of must counters from the Elves deck where Merfolk just does not have that many counters. And no islands either.
Yeah, Merfolk is really a deck that loves to play against combo decks. It likes playing against decks like Show and Tell. It likes playing against decks like Storm. Decks that use spells to combo off, not elves. Yeah. Elves is a combo deck, but it's a much more resilient, robust combo deck than a deck like Storm or Show and Tell.
Hatch with just an island and passing the turn back here, and Nass with just a Windswept Heath and passing the turn. So no turn 1 plays from either player, which is a little bit surprising.
Yeah, well, Greg, obviously the Aether Vial is the big card that he wants to get on turn 1. Doesn't have too many 1-drops that are that important in this matchup, though. Might have even boarded out some of them, like Curse Catcher.
There's the Lord of Atlantis. It's funny because Kosi's Trickster is actually a pretty good card in this matchup for Hatch. Obviously there's Windswept Heath, there's Green Sun Zenith, there is Natural Order, but there's a lot of ways for the Elves deck to actually look through its library and actually shuffle it, and that'll put Trickster into basically a 1-mana 3/3 or 4/4, kind of doing a Wild Mikado impression.
So Matt deciding if he wants to sack his Windswept Heath at the end of turn. He does have, it looks like he has a Gaia's Cradle, so maybe he's deciding if he wants to go for the Bayou or does he want to go for Dryad Arbor, but it looks like he's just going to draw his card for the turn.
Draws
another Gaia's Cradle. So.
I don't know if that's good or bad.
Yeah, I'm not sure I want a second one in this position. He's got it looks like he's got 2 glimpses, not much more action.
Wow, a really slow draw here. All right, so this feels like to me, if he's on this kind of slower draw, you got to be wary of Natural Order Progenitus.
Well, technically it's slow, but in reality, he can just go sack both lands, get Dryad Arbor, play Gaia's Cradle, and then suddenly we got something going.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
And so let's see what Greg's going to muster on his turn. He's got just a Lord right now.
Him and the Judge, tag team. Hey, it's that tough of a matchup.
Maybe he wants to know about, because he does have a Submerge. Maybe he's asking, is Dryad Arbor a forest? Which obviously it is, otherwise you wouldn't be able to search for it. So if Matt does get a Dryad Arbor, the Submerge will get turned on, but I wonder what he's asking about. So
I love when they ask contestants if you could be thinking anything. Hey, where am I going for dinner after I get crushed?
Yeah.
Hey, anywhere you want. Vegas is great.
So Greg deciding what he wants to do on his 3rd turn here. He's got a Submerge. Looks like he might have a Mutavault too. And does he have True Name Nemesis?
Yeah, I mean, does he have another Lord to start putting the pressure on? You see, as you mentioned, he's got Mutavault. He's got some blue cards in there.
So, 1 mana. So this could be Aether Vial. All right. Okay, he's going to attack first.
We think.
He might be afraid of Matt getting both Dried Arbors and just double blocking, but
You'd love that.
yeah, you'd love that. So
Yeah. You couldn't be happier.
So here we go. 1 mana is getting tapped.
Is he going to activate this? Huh.
And
there's an image. So he's going to... Okay. All right.
Got it. So he copied a Mutavault.
That feels like to me that he probably has a GT in his hand and needs a 4th land. Maybe.
Yeah,
I could be wrong.
No, it does. It does look like he has a GT in his hand.
All right, so Dried Arbors are in the house.
So, yeah, that's definitely the question he has to judge.
Yeah.
What happens if I Phantasmal Image an active Mutavault?
Yeah.
It turns into a Mutavault. So Matt Nass does get 2 Dried Arbors, so now the Guy's Cradle that he has in his hand will be able to generate at least 2 mana.
Mm-hmm.
One of the best cards, one of the best lands ever made.
Which one, Dried Arbor?
Dried Arbor's pretty
Dried
good.
Arbor is pretty good, yeah.
So, yep.
1 second, he says. I have an end of turn effect. All right, go ahead. We thought he might submerge here.
So there's an Elvish Vision, right? And there is a
in the draw step. I like it.
So nice turn there for Greg. Yeah, if he does have that Jitte, which I agree with you, if he made that plan, it definitely kind of telegraphs that.
Oh, jeez.
Double submerge. Oh, my God. Things just went from bad to worse.
Yes, they did. Both Dried Arbors get back on top of that deck, and you've already drawn your card for the turn, too, and that means that his draws are, oh, my, and now it's the Cradle and Go. Oh, what a turn by Hatch. Oh, my gosh.
Great turn for Hatch. Is it Jitte? Were you right? No, it looks like, oh, yeah, you know what? He had a Cavern in his hand, so there's no way, yeah.
Oh, so he's just firing up these creatures, and he just wants to get into the red zone.
He's smashing face right here.
He's for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
8, yeah, so.
That's a 2-turn clock.
2-turn clock all of a sudden.
And Nass doesn't even need lands in play, realistically.
And he's got 2 Dried Arbors on top of his deck.
Yeah, and those things are going to be summoning sick. I mean, yes, you can play a Cradle. I mean, he has his Cradle in play. You can play the Dried Arbor and tap the Cradle for 1 mana.
Yeah, and Greg has another Mutavault, so he's just going to activate both Mutavaults and attack with the team again. And it looks like it might be enough. Let's see what Matt decides to do here. He's got the Nettle Sentinel.
All right, there's a Nettle.
Kieran Ranger is a way to target, but he doesn't have a Kieran Ranger. So Greg Hatch going beatdowns.
Draws a Lord
There's
of Atlantis,
another
plays
Lord.
a Cavern. Going to play another Lord, I think, here. Yep. Fire up those 2 Mutavaults into the red zone. You got to block.
Yeah, so even the Lord, if it gets blocked by the Nettle Sentinel, it won't die here.
And he has to block. He's got to block a Mutavault. So he's going to be taking 4, 5, 6, 7. Dried Arbor's got to get in front of something now, too.
Yeah, so Dried Arbor, he ends up taking 7 here, drops down to 1. He can no longer use any sack lands.
All right, all I'm going to say is if Matt Nass kills him on this turn, I'm out of here. I would lose my mind if he was killed him on this turn.
I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't even know how that could be possible.
If he still had the Dried Arbor in play, it's nah, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know how he could do it.
He's got a Birchlore Ranger, so that's a start.
All right.
So Birchlore Ranger. Okay, so here we go. Here's a glimpse. That's going to untap Nettle. He still has another Guy's Cradle in his hand. And thankfully, the new Legend rule means he can play it and use the new one.
All right.
Here we go.
2 mana.
2 mana.
Draw
a card. He draws 2 cards now.
Yep. 1.
Can't play any more
2.
lands. There's a Deathrite. Tap 2 mana. Deathrite, untap Nettle Sentinel.
He needs a Nettle Sentinel.
Draw a card.
Natural order.
Natural order.
All right, that's it.
Oh,
the fact that he had outs and that he was playing there, if he wins that game that turn somehow, some way, I'm losing my mind.
Yeah.
I'm losing it.
It was close. If he was able to draw another 1-drop, if he had like a train of 1-drops.
Yeah, if he draws like a Nettle Sentinel, adds green, draws in a Heritage Druid, and then was able to do some more stuff, that there's an actual series of draws that exist there that he can win the game.
Definitely. But fortunately, Matt wasn't able to come back from that. Turn 3 Stone Rain you twice for free.
Yeah, turn 2 Stone Rain, basically plow under you.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is just that. And the fact that there's a series of draws that could happen, and he knows the draws, too. Nass knows the draws is crazy to me. But either way, Hatch ties it up to go into game number 3. Nass is shuffling immediately, and Hatch is going back to the drawing board.
Yeah, Matt does not want to change anything. He's comfortable with the matchup. And, like you said, things were going really bad for him. That was not a really impressive start for Matt at all. But like you said, he still had a chance despite the fact that he got plow undered for free.
Yeah.
on turn 3 there. So Greg Hatch trying to decide whether or not he wants to make some adjustments. Matt considered it for a second, but yeah, I think he's okay. He's still kind of confident in the matchup, so he's just going to shuffle up. Greg Hatch deciding maybe he wants to do something a little differently now that he's on the draw. Submerge, obviously a card. I don't see him taking that out. Do you think maybe Swan Song comes in here? Grafdigger's Cage is another option for him?
I think Cage is great in this matchup. Shuts down Natural Order, also shuts down Green Sun Zenith, so I think that's going to certainly come in. We've already seen the Submerges. We know the GTA's in here, even though it's going to be a little bit hard to get on. It's going to have to involve True Name Nemesis. I do like some number of Swan Songs. I'm with you. I think Daze is terrible here.
Yeah.
So, he's got 3 Submerges, a GTA, and a Grafdigger's Cage, so that's an easy 5. 4 Dazes are out. Does he want Curse Catcher? Probably not. It's not going to counter anything, right?
Yeah, I don't think Curse Catcher is very good. I would probably swap out the Curse Catcher. I think Curse Catcher and Daze are probably the worst cards in your deck.
So that's like an easy 8, and if you count 3 Submerge, a GTA, a Grafdigger's Cage, 4 Swan Songs, maybe a Pierce or a Needle, you've got about 10 cards that you can sideboard in there, so some combination. I'm not saying he needs all 4 Swan Songs.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if he's even going to bring in any.
Yeah, I think 2 Swan Songs might not be bad because there are situations like we saw in the first game where if he was able to have just 1 more counter spell, he might have been able to muster up some sort of comeback. But yeah, I don't think you need all 4 Swan Songs in this matchup.
I think it's really interesting, too, because we saw how good Submerge could be there. I don't know how good Submerge is in this matchup oftentimes. It seems like it's okay, but, in the Rug Delvermeres and stuff like that, Submerge is a huge tempo play. How great is Submerge in this particular matchup? I'm not sure. Obviously, it was great in that particular game, and you're going to bring it in against the green deck. But I don't know if it's going to be that high-powered as it was in the last game.
Yeah, when I was playing Blue-Red Delver, I board in Submerge against the Elves, but mostly just because it's another card that will allow me to kind of potentially deal with Wirewood Symbiote. It's not a card that's going to totally dominate the game for you, but it is, particularly for a deck like Merfolk, they have 0 ways to interact with creatures, really. Yep. So anything at all is a help.
Yep.
So Submerge, Umezawa Jete, the reason they brought in those cards is because they just need some way to interact with Wirewood Symbiotes.
All right, Hatch is going to go back to the drawing board a little bit longer.
He's going deep.
We'll see what he can. He always does. He always does. It's basically his catchphrase, going deep.
Might be time for Vision Charm to make an appearance.
I don't know if we want to go that deep. He's got Koshi's Trickster and Vision Charm. I think that's deep enough.
We did see Phantasmal Image my Mutavault.
That's true.
That's a bold play.
It looked like a pretty good one, too.
Yeah.
So it looks like he's shuffling up here. If you guys missed any announcements that we did make over the course of this weekend, you can find them on the homepage of StarCityGames.com. Our 2014 announcements as far as our Quarter 2 schedule are concerned. Our new creature collection tokens we'll be doing for our Legacy Opens, those squirrel-themed cards. Of course, we've got our new token series that's coming out in Quarter 1 of next year. Brian Bronduin, who's in top 8 of this tournament. Chris Van Meter, Evan Irwin, Ari Lax, and I'm forgetting someone.
William Baby Huey Jensen, the best token, in my opinion.
Ah, yes, the Giants.
The giant baiting. Probably going to be the least played token.
Yep.
But very great artwork and so apropos given, Huey's massive stature in both the community and in reality.
How tall are you?
I am around 2 inches shorter than Huey.
I did not know that Huey was 6'7" and a half.
He's 6'7" and a half. Yeah,
that
I'm actually probably 3. Yeah, I'm like maybe 6'4" and a half, 6'5".
I never think that he's that tall. He is huge.
Yeah, really, really just a giant, which makes perfect sense for his token.
It's crazy to me that I know that you and Shahar were doing kind of the tall off a little bit earlier today. Shahar is almost as tall as Huey.
Yeah, Shahar is really tall as well. He's got to be like 6'5", 6'5" and a half.
And I've heard apparently he's real good on the basketball court too.
Well, he's using his height.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do not use my height to get advantage on the basketball court. I am terrible at basketball. I am very bad. I'm uncoordinated. You'd think that given how good I'm a dancer I am, I'd be better.
This doesn't make any sense to me at all. Salsa dance champion.
Make much sense at all.
I would think you could make it rain out there.
Yeah, you'd think I'd be better coordinated.
It's too bad, really.
So Greg Hatch, he's in his 30th minute of sideboarding right now.
You can tell he's definitely a little bit unsure of himself. Nass giving enough time here.
Nass,
he's just
leaning back.
He's so disinterested. He's like, look, man, this is easy.
Yeah, just do what you got to do, bro.
You sideboard whatever you want. It's not really going to matter to me. And what happened last game is not going to happen again.
Yeah, the game itself is likely going to take less time than this sideboarding, probably.
You can tell a lot is on the line here for both these players. Again, Hatch sitting at 12-3. If he wins, he's 100% in. If Nass wins, we think he's in. We think he'll be one of the 4 lost people who makes it.
I mean, being 8-0 means your breakers are probably pretty good. So I think he definitely has the best shot of all the X and 4s. Greg Hatch, though, obviously a top 8 here, given how hard it was to get here. He qualified last weekend. He had to take the mega bus all the way here. Didn't arrive till 4 in the morning. So obviously, Greg Hatch, a lot riding on here for him. And let's see if he's able. His back's up against the wall. He's on the draw here. Tough matchup. Let's see what he can do.
The old mega bus.
Ooh.
Whatever it takes to get here. Nass immediately mulligans.
All right, so Matt immediately goes back to the drawing board.
He clearly should have sideboarded longer.
Yeah, should have taken a little more time to pile shuffle, I think. That's clearly the mistake he made. So he's going to have to shuffle here and go for another 6 cards. Greg Hatch, though, appears like he might be okay with the 7.
Not too sure. Can't really tell.
Yeah, looks like he's not going to mulligan, but he better decide before Matt draws a 6, that's for sure.
Does he have a Jitte hanging out in there? Does he have a good start where he didn't start off great last game, but it didn't matter because he had double submerge for those Dryad Arbors?
I feel like he has at least 1 submerge in his hand. I don't know. It seems like
that's a soul read.
Yeah. Well, no, I think I could just that artwork is so you could just tell.
Yeah.
So yeah, it looks like Greg's going to keep his opening 7, and Matt's going to hope for a better 6-card hand. But given the things that Matt's deck can do, there's plenty of 6-card hands that can still win him the game on turn 3 even. So
6. This is kind of what it's going to take for Hatch on the draw, and what is a difficult matchup.
All right, so Matt is okay.
He looks like he's happy enough. All right, so there's a Forest, and there's a Heritage Druid to get things started.
Looks like Matt might have a Natural Order in his hand along with a Windswept Heath.
Let's see where Hatch begins. There's a Cavernous Soul. It's going to name Merfolk, obviously, and there's a Curse Catcher.
That's actually great news for Matt because that means that Greg doesn't have an island in play to turn on a Submerge if he has it.
Yeah,
so,
that's a big deal.
Great news for Matt here. Let's see if Greg's hand is like Cavern Mutavault. That would be awesome.
Ooh, do you see what he just drew for the turn?
No.
I think he just drew a Jitte.
Oh, my.
Oh, boy.
Hello. Does Matt have a Wirewood Symbiote or a Kieran Ranger to sort of stop these shenanigans?
Take a draw. Deathrite Shaman.
Oof. So it looks like he drew a Behemoth last turn, and now just a Deathrite Shaman. I think he might have a Glimpse in his hand. He also has a Natural
Order. He's got a Natural Order, too. But he's got a Jitte breathing down his neck right now.
Let's see. Do you think he boarded in the Progenitus? Because he does have a natural. He does have a Natural Order.
I have to imagine he did. He's going to sacrifice both fetch lands right now. Going to go down to 18. Don't think he's going to be searching up Dryad Arbor at this point.
Yeah, I think he needs his mana here. So he's going for a Savannah and a Bayou. How much? We could be seeing a glimpse into Deathrite. So trying to draw more cards. He does have that Heritage Druid, so if he draws another 1-drop elf, he'll have access to 3 more mana to keep the chain going if he draws more elves. So
Viridian Shaman in his sideboard?
He doesn't have Viridian Shaman. He does have Quasali Pride Mage.
Okay.
He has Quasali Pride Mage, and that's basically the only creature he can get to. He could also get, obviously, Wirewood Symbiote. That's really the card he wants.
All right, so here's a glimpse. Is that going to resolve? Does Hatch have a Force of Will?
I don't think he wants to sack the Curse Catcher, but it looks like...
Whoa.
Oh, wow. So he is going to make him pay 1 more, which means that Mutavault... It doesn't look like he's going to be able to activate Mutavault and equip next turn, so Matt dodged 1 turn of a Jitte activation.
I'm very surprised by that this turn from Hatch.
Yeah, so I think Matt has to be okay with that. I think he's... it could have been much worse for him.
Now, big draw there from Hatch. Hatch draws an island for the turn.
Looks like he has a Pithing Needle, too. Interesting. He did board in 1 Pithing Needle, so...
2 mana, 3 mana is his true name.
So the island will turn on Submerge, like we said. That was the one thing that he was missing. Let's see what Greg decides to do here. Okay, so he does have, it looks like it's a Merfolk per Trident in his hand. That can get equipped. He also does have the True Name Nemesis in his hand.
And?
Yep, it looks like he's going to go for the Merfolk.
And
so Master of the Pearl Trident comes down, and it looks like Pied Needle is going to get cast.
So what are we going to name a needle here?
I guess... yeah, let's see what he names with Needle. Wirewood Symbiote, that makes the most sense.
So he can make sure that his Jitte is going to get the hit in.
So the 1 of Needle takes care of the Symbiote.
Looks like he's casting a Submerge. He wants to cast a Submerge.
I think he wants to make sure that Matt doesn't have access to 4 mana next turn.
The problem here is that he can't stop him from having access. Because what's going to end up happening is that Nass is going to draw a card. He'll draw that Deathrite Shaman that went back on top. And then he can play the Heritage Druid into the Deathrite Shaman, use those 2 mana, tap all 3 elves, 4th mana is the Bayou, and he can cast Natural Order. And if he does have Progenitus in his deck, that would probably be it. Maybe.
It would be good, but again, let's see. I'm not sure if you boarded it in or not.
Yeah,
Progenitus is definitely a card that you kind of bring in against decks like Jund or Bug. But you don't necessarily bring it in against. It looks like he's going to the box. Matt forgot.
He's going to the box.
Not sure if he did or not. He could.
I see it. I see it. The
oh wow. So yep, there's a Progenitus still in his sideboard. So he's not getting Progenitus. He could get Kozali Pride Mage, but that's not really that great. I mean, he's basically going to have to lose a creature plus sack the Pride Mage just to deal with the Jitte, which he might just have to do.
Oh boy.
He has 1 Behemoth in his hand.
Does he have another one in his deck? Maybe that's what he was looking for. To see, did I cut down on 1 Behemoth?
Yeah.
You could see him. You could conceivably see him boarding out 1.
Oh yeah, I could see him definitely boarding out 1 Behemoth. Just given what he wants to do after board, he doesn't necessarily need to win with it. But yeah, let's see. Wirewood Symbiote. I don't think Matt was expecting the Pie Needle. Pie Needle is definitely a card that can put a wrench in his plans. But let's see what he can do here. He has a Deathrite Shaman, and now it looks like the Heritage Druid is going to come down. So now he can tap those 3 elves to generate 3 mana. He can cast the Natural Order. If he has basically Natural Order Behemoth in his hand. So if he sacks a creature to get another Submerge. Wow. So now he can't. Now he definitely won't have access to 4 mana this turn, and he's just going to draw Deathrite next turn. So wow, that was a huge turn there for Greg.
Hatch going to draw his card for the turn.
Yep, and here we go. We're going to have equip Jitte, kill both your Heritage Druids.
And maybe it's best to activate Mutavault and equip that so that your Master doesn't run into the 2 guys in trade.
Mm-hmm.
Because your Mutavault's going to be a 3/3.
Yeah, your Mutavault would be a 3/3 because
and maybe he wants to leave mana up, so he's going to equip his Jitte.
I actually think he's okay with. I think he's okay with trading there. Because if Matt does double block, fine, I lose my Merfolk, but I have plenty of other creatures that I can equip with.
And you've got your 2 counters.
And I still have 2 counters on my Jitte. So I think Matt's okay. I think Greg's okay with that trade, and that's exactly what's going to happen here. Matt's going to just double block the Merfolk, the Master of the Pearl Trident, lose both his creatures, and Master of the Pearl Trident will die, but Greg's going to hit in for 3 with the Mutavault and have an active Jitte with 2 counters on it.
That second Submerge was huge.
Yeah, 2 Submerge. That's all it takes.
That's it? Just 2 Submerge?
If you want to beat elves, all you need is your 1 of Pie Needle, your 1 of Umezawa Jitte, and 2 copies of Submerge.
My goodness.
So Greg, it looks like Greg's just going to take it. Yep. It doesn't want to just trade his creatures for a Merfolk, Master of the Pearl Trident. Now, what does Greg want to do? Does he want to kill both of the Heritage Druids? I think it's worth killing at least 1, because if Matt just goes like Gaia's Cradle.
Well, we know the top card of the deck.
Yeah, that's true. The Deathrite's on top of his deck, so.
You know that he can just respond to Deathrite being placed onto the stack, and I think that's exactly what he's going to do, so kill that.
No reason to kill both just yet. Just kill 1.
And I like the thought process here of, okay, if you ever play an elf, I'm just going to respond by killing the other elf.
Yeah.
So that you can't ever generate a bunch of mana.
And, yeah, it looks like Matt's thinking about maybe swinging with the Heritage Druid.
Not doing anything else.
Yeah. So Matt in a tough spot here. He just has a Natural Order and a Crater of Behemoth in his hand. And Greg is now going to get another attack with a Jitte creature.
Hatch is going to draw a card here. It's an island. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see him just fire up both Mutavaults and keep getting into the red zone and just shorten the clock on this game.
Yeah, let's lock this game up as quickly as we can. If Matt draws like an Abrupt Decay for the Jitte or something, and then you need to you don't want to give him more time to draw out of this, so let's try to lock this game up. But it looks like he's just going to attack with 1 of the Mutavaults.
Interesting tapping there by leaving the island up. Okay, so this is going to be allowed to come through. Jitte's going to go up a bunch of counters. There's that. He's got a follow play.
And here's True Name Nemesis.
Got to be True Name, right?
Yep. So True Name Nemesis comes down, and are we going to see Deathrite die here? Yeah, I think you kill Deathrite here because you don't want to have Matt. You don't want to have Matt to just be able to go Natural Order for something.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot.
But even if he does, I mean, it would have to be for like Progenitus is probably the scariest thing, and you have now mini Progenitus with a Jitte.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and Matt's already at 8, so not many cards that Matt can kind of draw out of this.
Hatch passes the turn. Nass is going to play a Nettle Sentinel. Hatch has no reason to respond. So Nass just passes the turn back. Hatch draws his card. Fire up Mutavault.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think you might. Maybe he wants to equip up the True Name Nemesis now, but it looks like he's just going to activate both.
Are there any blocks? If he blocks, he takes care of that. He attacks with everybody.
So now, nope.
And that is going to do it. Greg Hatch defeats Matt Nass 2-1. Merfolk defeats Elves in a match that we thought was going to be terrible. And the player who started off 10-0 in the tournament doesn't make top 8.
Yeah, Matt Nass, unfortunately, had a really rough day with Elves. Falls to now 11-5. Fails to make top 8. While Greg Hatch, he won his winning in. I mean, now he moves on to 13-3. And, we said there's a chance, even if he loses, he makes top 8 still. But now he doesn't have to worry about it. He is now a lock, and he could potentially be in the top 4 seed now. So that